And we can agree that this issue of cyclical elections has to come to an end.
You're raising money, you've got high debts, the country has a fairly high debt to GDP ratio at the moment, and much of that money, the largest part of the bilateral debt, is to China.
China, as well as to many other institutions as well.
So are you comfortable with the increasing burden that this country, the increased debt that this country has to China? Is China a risk?
What would worry me is if the debt that we have incurred has gone into recurrent expenditure, has gone into paying salaries, has gone into paying salaries or electricity bills and so on and so forth. But what we have utilized our debt for is to close the infrastructure gap. And anybody coming into Nairobi after 10 years, just Nairobi alone, let's not talk about the rest of the country, will be able to note that the number of roads that we've been able to do, the new railway lines that we've been able to do, all aimed at both improving business and increasing job opportunities for our young men and women. The number of people we have moved as a country in 10 years, from 32% of our people connected to the electricity grid, we are now closing to 65% of our population.
My point is not the money being borrowed, it's who's doing the lending, China. You're putting yourself in Beijing's debt.
We are borrowing from China. We have borrowed from the United States. We have borrowed. Our health care system is money that is being, we're working together with companies like General Electric. They are who are the backbone of what we're doing in our health sector. When it comes to energy, we are working very closely with AFD, the World Bank, the World Bank and the African Development.
The criticism is, though, that China has another agenda. You're familiar with these?
We are familiar with those arguments, but our position is a very clear one. We have an infrastructure gap that we need to fill. And we are going to work with our partners across the globe who are willing to partner and to work with us to help us achieve our social economic agenda. Because Japan, for example, is our biggest lender when it comes to all our port developments. Today, Mombasa Port wouldn't be without the support of Japan. When we talk about electricity and electricity generation, we wouldn't be where we are without the support of AFD of France. So why are we focusing ourselves only on one lender? Actually, to me,
you know the reason
as far as I am concerned, we have a very healthy mix of debt from the multilateral lenders, who are basically the World Bank and the African Development Bank, to bilateral lending, like I said, Japan, China, France, all who are participating and working with us to help us achieve our objectives.
The argument is they don't have the same agenda that President Xi might have in terms of bringing Africa within the greater sphere of influence of China.
We are looking at it, like I said, from our Kenyan perspective. And our Kenyan perspective is that we have a development agenda, we have a social agenda, we have an economic agenda, and we are willing to partner with all countries that help us achieve our objective.